And that guest is Keith Bartholomay. He is with Bartholomay Cattle Company out of Sheldon, North Dakota. They are a recent winner of the North Dakota Stockmen's Association Environmental Stewardship Award. Keith, hello. How are you?
Pretty good, Bridget. Glad to be here. Us guys in the grazing business like to see I'm happier today than a dung beetle and a fresh cow patty.
A dung beetle and a fresh cow patty. I like that. So, Keith, for you, as a livestock guy, that's going to have to be the fact that you have a whole bunch of snow going on, right?
Yeah, that's what I hear. I'm in business with my son, and he's stuck back on the ranch. I'm down in Arizona right now.
Lucky you.
That's not all bad. So Keith, tell us a little bit about the Bartholomay Cattle Company. How did you start? What are you raising? Just give us some background on your operation, please.
Well, I started ranching and farming with my dad, and when I come back home, probably 40 years ago, or 30 years ago anyway, it's been 40, be 40 in April. We raised cattle, and at that time we were a dairy farm. And then my brother Kent, and I took over the place, and we farmed and ranched for a few years. And then 5-6 years ago, I was getting close to retirement, and I had a son that wanted to work in, so we split the operation. My brother and I split the operation up. And so my son, Carl, come back from college and come back on the ranch, and we took the cattle end of the operation over and named it Bartholomay Cattle Company. It's Cattle Company is spelled with a K, and which kind of bothers my English teacher quite a bit. But it's really after Keith and Carl. Carl with a K, so it's Bartholomay Cattle Company, Keith and Carl Bartholomay. We try to keep around 300 cow-calf pairs, and then we usually take the calves, we background them for sure, and we put up a beef feeding system, a hoop barn to feed cattle in, so we background them for sure, and then if we got the time or the conditions are right, we'll take them all the way to finish. Some years we send half of them. We've been sending half of them half the cattle down to, or the steers anyway, and a few heifers down to Nebraska to finish for us. But we retain ownership all the way to the end on all our cattle.
And for you, this operation, like you said, been near and dear to your heart for a long time. You've got the hoop barns for finishing, but you've probably also got a lot of other activities going on besides the cattle. What else might be part of your operation? Are you raising your hay and your corn, et cetera, for feed as well?
Yeah, we raise almost all our own feed. We do use distillers grains, and right now we're getting some potato French fries out of Grand Forks because it's cheaper than corn. It's better to sell the corn and feed French fries, I guess, right now. So yeah, we don't raise much cash crop. Once in a while we do have a cash crop, just like wheat. We'll stick wheat in the rotation just for our soil health ventures, and we sell some hay. We have quite a bit of alfalfa, so when the weather is right, which doesn't include this year, we have hay for sale, quite a few years, especially with like the last 3-4 years, we've sent quite a bit of hay out in western North Dakota when they get in a drought.
And they appreciate that, because any hay coming over that area when they're dry, that makes a very big difference. And I just have a quick question. When you said you're feeding French fries because they're cheaper than corn right now, how does that change your ration? Are the French fries kind of giving you the same feed value that the corn does?
Well, it's pretty close. Yeah, a lot of starch in them. So, I mean, we don't feed all French fries, of course. We still feed some corn. And right now, on the growing calves, we're feeding a little bit of earlage, which is silage without the stalk. it takes the ear off the stalk and then chops that up and puts it in a pile. So, but it replaces quite a bit of the corn, and it's pretty close to the corn. I mean, you got to balance the vitamins and minerals are off a little bit, but that's where we hire a nutritionist to figure all that out for us.
I would be curious to see if there's any difference in the taste. If in the beef as it is fed, mainly French fry, that would be very interesting to find out.
Yes, it would.
Yeah, we haven't ate any yet, so I can't tell you.
Okay.
And last summer we didn't see our grading go down too much. We're still on the grid all the time, and our grid didn't go. Our grades, our choice grades didn't go down very much that we've seen using them. So
Good.
I don't know. I wouldn't think they'd taste any different. So
Maybe that's one way that you go ahead and you get your potato and your beef all together in one instead of having to make a big potato on the
That's
side.
perfect.
So Keith, we're going to get to this in a little bit about your winning of the Environmental Stewardship Award, but you're kind of backed up right against the Cheyenne grasslands, correct? Down in your neck of the woods by Sheldon?
yes, we have yeah, we're right north, and then our operating country we're in Cass County too. We have a section of some pasture up on the Maple River, northeast of Sheldon.
Okay, so can you explain a little bit about that grasslands, how grazing works there when you're so close to it? What are some things that you maybe take into consideration to be a little more protective of that grassland, et cetera?
As you know, it's administered by the United States Forest Service, and it's public land, the national grasslands. The grazing privileges are attached to our base property where we live. I guess that all the management there is run by the Forest Service. We kind of agree, although I think at times they're a little bit behind us in our grazing management on our private land. Whether, I don't know why that is sometimes, but so the grazing is agreed on. Of course, they've got a lot of other uses that they worry about more than we probably do, although I'm not sure. We worry about the water and the wildlife a lot in our place. And the land is number one. It always has been my number concern and still is, as our knowledge and our technology grows in the grassland grazing. We've kind of adopted all the latest technology to keep us current in the 21st century of grazing, where a lot of people, they graze like their great grandpas did, but they'll run the GPS and all that and auto steer in their tractors, but they adopt 1880s or 1580s grazing management. Well, we have technology in the grazing management, and we know a lot more than they did back then with our land, and make it a lot more productive.
Now, Keith, before we went to break, you're kind of talking about grazing on the land and whatnot, and that kind of led into you've recently gotten an award, which is the Stockmen's Environmental Stewardship Award for the state. Can you tell me a little bit more about what that award is? What goes into it? What do you got to do to be eligible for this?
Well, yeah, it was started quite a few years ago, and it's kind of piggybacked on the National Cattlemen's Beef Association Environmental Stewardship Award. You don't have to do anything except do a good job with your land and raise cattle. I guess I'm not even sure you have to be a member of the Stockmen's Association, although North Dakota Stockmen's Association, although I have been for years. I know it was started back when I was on the board, which is over 25, 30 years ago. So they every year the board nominates three or four, three people or three operations to, and then they judge the judge. It goes to a judge, you know, like the game and fish and people that are in the environmental field. They judge the awards and they pick one, and this year we were picked. It's quite an honor, especially from the North Dakota Stockmen. The award was started, you know, to showcase that cattle operations and farmers, especially in cattle, we do care about the land, and that we do, and that we're taking care of it for our future generations. We knew there was a lot of real good operations out there that are concerned about the wildlife, concerned about the water, and so it's kind of, it was part to honor the people that are doing a great job out there, and part I don't know what you call it, but to let the public know that we are doing a good job. You know, nowadays cattle, that's all we hear in the national media, how cattle are ruining the climate and causing climate change and all this propaganda and don't eat meat and all that stuff. But I'd challenge anybody to have come out to our pastures, and we're using waste food, and we're very environmentally sustainable. I mean, we use a lot less per acre. We use a lot less chemicals. We don't use hardly any, just when we have few problems. So, and Keith, I guess that's the award.
Keith, I've got a couple of questions. The first one is, and you touched on a great subject of all the propaganda that cattle and their flatulence and you name it is causing the horrible. It's horrible for the climate. You know, how do we get the word out that, you know, this is not true? How do we educate the people more to get the word out? I mean, the government obviously has the tool of the media. What could we do more, or, you know, or just the ag industry in general?
No, I think what you guys are doing here and inviting me on, I really appreciate the opportunity, and hopefully we reach some of the city people through your thing. Hopefully I'm not just talking to the crowd, you know, or to my own crowd. So I think that's the big thing is, I mean, we're trying. All organizations, ag organizations, are going to the people with their case, and I think that's every person, every farmer and rancher has got to. We have a little bit of education on some of the people that aren't quite doing it, you know, that don't quite believe in it yet. But the bigger problem is that we have to get to the city people, that they want to know where their food comes from, and I think we got a great story to tell. We need to tell it. So right. I want to thank you guys.
And Keith, one more question on my end here. So you were talking earlier about your grass, hay, and pasture, and how 2021 was rough, obviously with the severe drought we had, and last year wasn't too bad until the end of the summer where it did turn dry. What are your plans for 2023?
Well, where we're situated, we have high water table, so when it's dry, we kind of like it. A little bit dry, we kind of like it. We don't like it a lot dry. Our plans for 23 are pretty much the same. We had extra grass last year, and we had extra grass in 21, so we're kind of trying to catch up. And it's a nice problem to have when it's drought, but so that's part of this grazing. If you do your grazing right and plan for the future instead of just plan for the year. So we're always planning for the future, and that's gotten us through all the droughts. Our biggest problem have been some of the floods that we've had. When you get in the high water table and no drainage like we have, then we get lots of cattails and willows and cottonwoods and stuff. So I guess we're not planning anything too much except maybe keep a few bit more yearlings back this year.
Okay. And you were kind of mentioning, on taking care of the land and how you use less chemicals and, a lot of how propaganda has been going out there with cattle and agriculture being harmful for the environment with all the phooey that goes along with it. What are you doing differently, and what are other farmers doing that a lot of people maybe aren't familiar with that makes you so much better for the environment than what people are saying?
Well, I guess the biggest thing that we do, number one, our biggest advantage, I guess, is that we graze a long time through the winter. We got crop aftermath. We have cover crops. This year we were set up to my goal in life is to have one winter in North Dakota where I do not feed any hay or very little supplement. I haven't made it yet. We've had three or 4 years where I've gotten by on less than one bale of hay equivalent per cow and bull. I've fed them, so I've gotten that. So we use all the crop aftermath. Now, if this weather breaks and the snow goes away, we got some swath grazing to go on to now that we didn't bale it. We just left it lay out there in the field, swathed it, and left it lay. And if we wouldn't have got 2.5 feet in December, of snow, we'd have been in good shape. Right now, I think my son's getting ready to move him back there, and then we will have rye cover crops that are interseeded in corn and to go on. We're hoping by the middle of April we'll be done feeding hay if the snow is gone by then, or mostly gone. It doesn't have to all be gone. So that's our number one thing that we're doing. And that keeps the weeds down too on the cropland. On the pasture land, we rotate fairly rapidly. We're not doing it like some of the top ones are doing, but we rotate our cattle 7 to 10 days. And so our grass is getting rested for some of it. Like this last year, we rested over half our pastures were only used once, so they won't get any grazing for 365 days. So there's a lot of forage out there that gets worked into the ground that feeds our bugs and for our soil health, and that the recovery time we'll bring the cows out, and within a couple 3 days, even in dry years like 2021 without any rain, our grass is already in a week. It's 2-3 inches high and growing right away because we leave enough leaf area and stuff to regenerate the grass. So that's the thing. And a lot of farmers now are rotating at least 4 or 5 pastures. We found that we needed at least 10 pastures to rotate one herd through to get a lot of the advantages, herd effects, nutrient recycling, and that all helps our soil health.
Right, and with all of that, you had mentioned also that you're using less chemicals and I'd imagine fertilizers as well, and that's good for the land and the runoff that could come from that as well, right?
Yes, yeah, and of course on our feedlot, all the water, none of the manure is exposed to the water. Everything's under a roof, and we have a manure storage pit that we spread. And when we spread our manure, we definitely do it with a nutrient management plan, so we know how much nutrients we're putting on. And then we make sure we put that on. When we put manure on, it's always put on cover crops. So we have something growing right away to grab that manure. We don't inject it, but we do put it on when the cover crop is growing, so that it grabs and keeps the amount of grass down, or the amount of nutrient loss down, because it's valuable stuff.
Well, and not just the fact that you're raising cattle out there, you've also got a crop going on, Keith, but based on the pictures you've shown us, you've got a pretty good relationship with wildlife. Not every rancher has that, but it looks to me like you aren't too bothered by having some deer and wild turkey out on your pastures as well. How's that relationship work for you? Pretty positive?
by most part, you get a winter like this, and they find our third cutting hay pretty hard, which I don't like too much. But other than that, you know, and then we make sure that we allow hunting. I mean, we want the hunters to come. We enjoy the hunters and help keep the deer down. But yeah, as you can see, we got pretty good habitat, and in the summer that we love to see them. When they start working on my fruit trees in my yard, and my third cutting alfalfa, I get a little upset. But but that's just a short time, and it's kind of a neat problem to have.
Well, Keith, you have answered so many awesome questions. And by the way, I'm with you. I don't appreciate it when the deer stop in my yard and want to chew on my trees either. It doesn't make me very happy. So, Keith, if folks wanted to reach out and visit with you, ask you questions about the award, etc., how would you like them to do that? Do you have a Facebook page or anything that you'd like folks to take a look at?
Well, all my information is down, and we didn't get into, but the North Dakota Grazing Lands Coalition has a mentor program. So if you go to ND, I think it's ndglc.com, North Dakota Grazing Lands Coalition, I'm one of the mentors, and all my contact information is there. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, but I don't do that. But that mentorship program was set up to anybody that had questions or is trying regenerative grazing or anything and has questions on fencing, water, anything, succession, grazing, how you figure out when you move your cows, all that kind of stuff. That's all on that website, and there's people scattered throughout the state that are willing to help in any situation. So
thank you for sharing
I'm on there, and
that.
that's how you get a hold of me.
That's fantastic.